Last one didn't record the audio. I was reading an article about backward compatibility. I need to check on my audio is working. That can be. I check my stream and the audio's there. Now we've got no visual. I check my stream and the audio's there. Now we've got no visual. Check my stream and the audio's there. There we go. So I'll say again what I said in the last time for the last 20 minutes ago. I was going through my game collection for the Xbox 360 and I put it into the Xbox One and I had to download the game again. And I was wondering why I had to download the game again at 7.28 gigabytes. And I was like, oh, that's the whole game. So, turns out that with the backward compatibility, you still need to have the disc in. I was wondering why you still need to have the disc in. Point being is, if you have the disc in, it needs to read the code off the disc. So you can't go to your friend's house with your Xbox and be able to play that game. Because they want new customers and not old customers. They want to keep it where you're stuck with the game, that you can't resell the game. And that's what this article's about, well, the backward compatibility and the online service. It was in 2017. So now we know why Xbox One backward compatibility took so long. On the 23rd of the 10th, 2017, anyone who followed Microsoft's gaming plans, this is what this article's about, in 2013 knows how much the company's confusing policies and public reversals regarding always on quotes, internet connection and used game restrictions on the Xbox One damaged the company's image. Right. So I'm going to say this again. I'll defend Microsoft that they were probably pandering to the software companies for the games. That's what they were doing. They were building a device or a console so then they can get games on it and get the revenue or the sponsors, whatever it may be, for them, so they can work in tandem with each other. Now it sounds like the turmoil surrounding that launch also delayed the rollout of the Xbox 360 backward compatibility on the system. The reason for that that I'm against that is that they didn't keep their old customers and they wanted new customers for the Xbox One. They didn't care about the guys like myself or anybody else who was playing the 360 or had a load of games and they're just going to lie around and so nobody can reuse them or resell them, or like these other third party companies that do that. That build their business on it. They don't want that. They want everything locked up online, downloadable, only from them, and cost you online service, as it's called. This resulted in pushing a planned launch day feature to its actual late 2015 debut. That nugget comes from a wide-ranging, behind-the-scenes look at Microsoft's backward compatibility efforts posted on IGN this morning in 2017, amid quotes from an array of Microsoft employees involved in the backward compatibility development and rollout. Writer Ryan McCaffrey includes this tidbit, quote or brackets, emphasis added as well, bracket. The fan-first feature has evolved from an experiment conducted by two separate Microsoft research teams into a service planned for Xbox One's launch, complete with hardware hooks baked into the Durango silicon. Until the well-publicized changes to the Xbox One policies, brackets, namely stripping out the always-on line requirement for the console, bracket, forced it to be pushed to the back burner. The piece doesn't go into much detail on the decision to delay what was apparently a planned launch day feature for the Xbox One. So it would have been good that you can use the old games that you currently have. They don't want that. They want you to buy the new games, download them, lock down online. It says it in this article. But it does mention that the project wasn't revived until after the departure of the Xbox president Don Matrick. I don't know if they're trying to point something out there in 2013, and they're putting some hardware in here. The installation of the current head of Xbox, Phil Spencer, in early 2014. It's not all that shocking that the chaos surrounding Xbox or Microsoft's Xbox One plans had a knock-on effect in the development of other planned features for the console. Microsoft Director of Product Planning, Albert Pinello, told ours, which is the article, in 2013 that the late shuffling of the features meant, as he said here, we had to go back and redo a lot of work that we weren't anticipating at this point in the program. It's actually extremely difficult to change. It's totally different purchase flow. It's a totally different UI. We have to think about security differently, permitting the customers, end user, us, people who buy the games, when they can be offline and have to be online. It's actually pretty complex. They're just trying to say that it's complex, and it's still going on to 2021 now, and they're working on it as they do it to get people to buy all the time, constantly renewing. That's what the Xbox Series X was all about as well. To keep you locked in to the cost, to keep you locked into them at their hooks, like fish hooks. So you can't let go. You can't go anywhere else. I did say in one of my other videos here, if anybody watched them, but open source media, open source systems, open source software. That's where it's at. It says here as well again. It says, and earlier this year, former Xbox Chief Marketing Officer Yusuf Mende reflected in the LinkedIn post how, quote marks, it required great technical work, quote, to change course and reverse, quote mark, a few key decisions regarding connectivity requirements and how games would be purchased that didn't land well with fans. That's them deciding that the fans didn't want it. That kind of, quote mark, great technical work, quote, isn't free in terms of time or worker attention. I just said it. You can get it. Open source. It's right there. There's people willing to do it. There's people willing to work on it. There's people willing to try it. This is what my channel's about as well, about modding, about, well, they don't like this word and people find it like very scary, which is hackers. It's not a definition of a person that wants to know everything about you and can destroy your life. Whatever. No, it's not. If you ever watch the film Hackers, it gives you an idea. It's not about people that want to go out and ruin your life. They just look at things and modify it, like a modification, like customization of things. If you want an Xbox cover or Xbox controller different color or something, they spray paint it, they change it, they remold a new one. They don't want, these companies don't want you doing that. They don't want you modifying anything of theirs unless it's they have approved it. They don't want you changing it. They don't want you going into the software of it. They want to lock you out. They want to close people off. They don't want anybody deciding that you can play with your characters or whatever they do or cheat in the game and all. They don't want that. They want you to be locked in with them where they decide so they can keep making their profits off it or make sure you can't change anything in it. EA, there's a few companies that did have it before. It used to be open maps. You could make your own maps, customized maps in games, RTS games. You could. There was ones for Diablo as well. Customization. They took it out. Blizzard took it out. They didn't want people doing that. And now they're doing it with Diablo Resurrection, where they're locking people in online and they're ruining the old game so you can't reuse it unless you have a console, the old console, which is a PS1, or a way of being able to play it on a PC, the old game. They're trying to destroy the source code of that. They did the same with Blizzard. Did the same with Warcraft 3 as well when they wrecked it. These things don't happen by coincidence. They happen on purpose. They plan these things. These companies don't just go, "Oh, I think it's an accident." That's a cover-up. Anyway, we're getting off track. Reporting, they're open source, and IGN's reporting suggests that Xbox 360 backward compatibility was an initial victim of that change in focus. So they just wanted to destroy it anyway. That was the initial goal. From concept to execution, the rest of IGN's piece goes into detail on how Microsoft backward compatibility plans evolved, starting with work on a virtual GPU emulator based on the Xbox 360 way back in 2017 or 2007. Sorry, way back in 2007. They're still working on it now. They're still trying to see how they can close up the market. It's turning into the music industry. That's what it's turning into. Downloadable, and they're learning from it. From the music industry crashing that time with the CDs and people able to modify it and change it, so or whatever it is, whatever you do with it. As the Xbox One design finalized, Xbox Core Platform Group's program manager Kevin Gamble said the team considered putting in a system on a chip that would enable Xbox 360 games, much like the Emotion Engine quote marks hardware that let early PS3 systems play PS2 games. So there you go. That's all they had to do. They didn't want to do it. This is the reason said right here. While some unspecified hardware ended up in the Xbox One design to aid future backward compatibility efforts, the idea of the full 360 system on a chip, SoC, was apparently regarded as, there's it there, where the money comes into it, too expensive and limited for what the team had in mind. If we'd have gone with the 360 system on a chip, we likely would have landed at just a parity. Gamble told IGN the goal was never to just parity. There you go, the goal was never that. By the time that audience pleasing backward compatibility announcement arrived at E3 in 2015, the team only had a small batch of the promised initial batch of backward compatible games working on the Xbox One. That's why it's still to this day, because they don't want it. They never did want it. It was always the goal to make sure people were locked in, closed off, and destroy modification, and make sure that nobody thinks critically of any of their equipment in any shape or form to modify it, change it, or do anything with it. Again, I said in one of my other videos that GTA, I think it was, somebody was sent a legal notice, cease and desist. Because they modified a game. I think it was GTA anyway. GTA 5. Other titles were running at speeds as low as 1 frame per second until the team fixed an inconsistency between the CPU schedulers on different hardware. The whole piece is worth a read, and Microsoft prepares to launch emulation of a select original Xbox games on the Xbox One hardware as soon as tomorrow, which was in 2017. But we can't help but wonder how the Xbox One's fate would be different had the system launched with the support of the Xbox 360 games out of the gate. I don't think I should have any more to say on that. That's open source, modification. A hacker is a terminology used for a person that looks into something, reads about it, understands it, and works on it. And doesn't work, may work for in a different company. Say there could be a hacker, could be a person who could be a mechanic, a car mechanic could be a hacker. Somebody who puts turbos into a car, changes the car into running on a different fuel. That's a hacker. Hacker is a person who figures something out, looks at the plans, understands it, and then modifies it for better or for worse. A modder is somebody who can take a controller, a plastic controller, modify it, customize it the way you want it to be, or adds one piece to it to make it better, to update it software wise, hardware wise. There's a whole genre of people out there, black hats, white hats, grey hats, do all sorts of different things. That's why they call it the underground or whatever. And it's vilified and demonized by these companies, software companies that they're more recognized for creating games or anti-spyware stuff or anti-malware or anti-virus softwares. So they're vilified by these ones. And there's people like Edward Snowden, I think it's Gary McKenna, are all people that have looked into things and then they get employed by the agencies or whatever, or by these companies to run them for them because of their train of thought. I'll leave it there.